All right, I'd like to call this September 22nd, 2025 IGA Committee meeting to order. We'd like to approve the agenda.
Yes.
Agenda is approved. Do you approve the minutes from the 8/26 meeting?
Yes.
All right, that is also approved. We'll get right into it. For the policies, we're going to start with A. We're looking at BDD.
Mr. Dupere?
Electronic participation in meetings with remote locations has to deal with board member who cannot be at a board meeting and with the addition of caregiver. We'll see halfway down that definitions. If you had a sick spouse at home or a sick child at home, and you were unable to attend. So it just gives, that is an additional reason. And under that, I think you're given rights to participate. So that's, you'll see it halfway down.
Yeah, I think that came up this past year.
Yep, I'm sure it did. I didn't want to say that, but it did come up. So that's the additions.
Those are additions that came up just because we felt that it needed it.
No, I think that's
It's from the state.
It's from the
Okay,
state.
great.
It's from the state. It just so happens that we could have used
There you
it.
go, yeah. Okay. No other changes on that?
Well, I'm good with
I
that.
am good with that. We can move that along to the full board. Information. All right. Let's go right down the line. B, we're looking at EB, School Crisis Emergency Management and Medical Emergency Response Plan.
That's me. These are all based on state code changes or additions. Just a summary, a quick summary. It includes a component of the audit to include public health emergencies in our school and division plans, bleeding control kits and a lot of requirements behind those, as well as emergency cardiac response plans that we already have. So it's just basically updating our policy to be in line with state code.
It says here that the superintendent or designee and the school safety audit committee may meet annually on the grounds of any public school. That just
allows, like the sheriff, if we wanted to go to a specific school. We meet as a safety advisory team quarterly, typically here.
Mhm.
But we also have safety inspections every 3 years that's a part of that safety audit, which always includes the sheriff's department and some other community partners like fire and rescue, those kind of things. I think it just allows the sheriff, it really doesn't apply to us because we've been working with the sheriff consistently and have a great relationship where they are a part of that audit.
Okay, and you guys take findings from this to, enhance anything and then also use that as training for principals, because principals walk their schools
Right.
daily, correct?
So the way the audit works, there's multiple components of the audit that includes the safety checklist every 3 years, survey to students and staff members, several other things. And every year there's a written component from the principal that the principal looks at all those other things, all that other feedback and writes a needs assessment for their school for safety that Mr. Nazigan compiles into one list that we review with you guys.
Yes.
The reference on page 2 to the Heimlich maneuver, that's actually been removed from the American Red Cross, at least as a designated term, that they promote back blows, they promote vacuum devices and things first, as the Heimlich is more prone to cause bodily injury in untrained hands, basically. And so I don't know if you want to cross that out, just leave reference to the emergency first aid, because they still teach the abdominal thrusts, but as a tertiary move rather than the back blows and other things.
Where did you see?
You want to line that out? Can we line that out?
Ah, I see.
No, he just says that they're trained in
Ms.
it,
Thomas
but it's
is
no longer part of the first
expert
aid,
on-
emergency first aid training.
You could just say
For
pulmonary
emergency.
resuscitation and emergency first
I'm
aid.
fine with it.
Yep.
You got that, Melissa? So it's the fourth paragraph, or third paragraph on page 2. It starts with,
Each school.
each
It's that
school.
one on the bottom there, each school, right here next to his head.
No, what you're doing, you're gonna.
Yeah, or they'll rupture spleen, or people do all kinds of crazy things when they got adrenaline surging through their
Yeah,
body.
exactly.
What do you want me to put here?
Just take it
Just
out.
take it
Blanket,
out.
just
Just
cross
line
it.
it out.
Okay.
All the
Take out the
and
commas
everything.
and just put and
Just leave the
emergency
emergency first aid, because that's really a more inclusive term,
first aid for
you
everything.
know, that
That
you're
makes
not
sense.
liable for
Leave and
specific
in and take out the,
Exactly.
perfect.
Okay. I am going to defer to our good doctor here.
Yeah, I'm okay with all the rest of it.
All right, well, with that one change there, I think we are good to move that one over as well, for information. EEAB, school bus scheduling and routing.
Major changes, I think we just needed to, this came up as a review.
Yeah, it's a policy we haven't looked at since 2018, so we're just reviewing it.
Great,
Now, I will say, as we get more with Mr. Lee into routing, I might bring it back if we have more specific, larger systematic changes to make us more efficient.
Yeah.
But right now, talking to Mr. Lee, you know, he's still 3 to 4 months on the job. We're still going over our school bus logistics audit, those
Mhm.
kind of things. So right now, it's fine to keep it as. If we need to bring it back, we'll bring it back later.
sounds good. Very good. That one's good to go as well.
And the next one is actually one of Karen's, so I'll just try to do hers since she's not here.
That's GABIIBEA, acceptable computing.
Yeah, that's two different policies, but they're exactly the same, so I just listed them once. The only thing that changed is this policy has to be reviewed every 2 years.
Every 2 years?
2 years, yeah. So in reviewing it, and I sent it to Mr. Sexton, and he pretty much only changed the stuff that to reflect current technology for the use, I mean, the definition of computer system, and getting rid of anything that we don't use anymore and replacing it with updated words.
Small changes.
He said he did want to bring it back in the future, but he was new in his role, so he wanted to go through it with committees and stuff, so
Okay.
I'll bring it back later.
When you say the GAB and IBEA are two different documents,
the two different policies in board docs in two different sections, but they're the exact same
They're
word.
the exact same.
So I didn't wanna go over
Okay.
it twice.
One's adult, one's
Sent
kid.
here.
I will change it in
Software
both, but
may not be installed, so it must not be installed, shall not be installed without the prior approval.
No more CDs, huh?
What do you think? On page 2, it says software and or devices may not be installed or downloaded without prior approval from superintendent or designee. Shall not, may, must not, something like that,
How about is prohibited?
just
Yeah,
instead of may, I'd like it to be, and I'm going to defer
a
to
little more definitive.
one of the principals,
Maybe.
I'm gonna make it stronger.
I mean, we usually use shall, but you can.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm okay with that. Doesn't leave room for
Yeah.
much question
You
there.
can't do it unless you get approval. Second to last paragraph says the school board, is that by design? School board's not responsible for any information that may be lost?
I've kind of, when I've been doing policies, unless it's specifically something that you all are supposed to do, the SBA always just said the school board because the school board was over the school system. A lot of times I just put Bedford County Schools in place of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can change that. They're interchangeable really a lot of the time.
Okay, I just want to be consistent from what we've
can change
normally
that.
been doing. Because it usually says like the division.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last sentence that says the school board reviews, I mean,
That's
we're under
true.
law, we have to, so
Yeah.
that should stay, I would think. You've got the next sentence where it says furthermore. School board is not responsible. And then that should be, I think that'd be good.
Yeah, I would stipulate Bedford County School Board, just to be consistent with those statements. 'Cause that's usually how we refer to it, right?
No, I take Bedford County out because it's our policy manual, so I assume it's our school board. So I just put school board and that's us.
Okay.
I shouldn't put that. Is that what you told me to do, Chris?
Now, the one above it, right here.
I've lost, okay, I see it.
And then that last one could say, yeah, you go.
My vision's getting worse, I'm getting older.
I don't like what- I think that's good. Dr. Kubak, good?
I'm good.
All right, we're good with that. B. GABA.
Alright, this is a new policy, completely new. We had on the back of the one that she handed out at the beginning, on the back of JFCG, we had a small component that said employee use of cell phones or personal electronic devices. We're gonna leave that there. So, but I wanted them to match, and SBMA came out with a whole policy for this, so I just used their policy.
Okay.
So basically, what I had said before on the back of this one was really close to their policy, but I didn't want one to word it one way and one to word it another. So I just took their policy, made the new policy for employees, and then made the one on the back match it. And it's just, the one on the back of this one is just it's just the nuts and bolts, and then refers you to the full policy.
And I plan to bring the JFCG back to next IGA with those updates to go to the board.
Okay,
Yeah, I just didn't, I mean, it basically says the same thing, but it was just worded a little, you know what I mean? It didn't, the content didn't change, but I didn't like that it was written two different ways.
okay.
So,
Intent was the same and.
yeah, intent was the same, everything like that, but when somebody's already written the policy for you and supposedly reviewed it, why would you write it yourself? Is my opinion. So, I just took theirs.
Is this changing, so just to be clear, it's not changing anything that we do now? Okay. Cause it says it's gonna be in the handbooks and everything, it's not like we need to make an, addendum or whatever, and send it out, okay. Okay,
No, it was, it's just making it, instead of having it a combined policy, it's saying there's an employee policy and there's a combined policy. It's kind of like writing it twice so that everybody should read it.
got it. I'm good.
Yep.
You guys are 5 for 5. JO, student records.
That's actually a policy that I'm over, but Karen did some updates to it. She talked to legal counsel, I think, on these last two policies. And JO, she changed some stuff regarding clarifying access to student records regarding copies of video. And, like if parents could have copies of video, it goes through and who can record stuff in a meeting, I think.
So the video, we have a regulation on.
Yeah.
I think this is more about recording the meetings, right?
She put something about videos in here. Let me see. There's
One is
all-
a reference to the Code of Virginia. And then,
There's also reference to foster parents,
parents.
foster parents being,
being able to remove their address from public
just as if they're a
documents so you
parent,
can't be found.
even though it might be a short-term placement, they still will be.
And then when a student is transferring to another school division, that we also include a copy of their complete disciplinary record to the other school division. Said something about video.
The video,
Yes, that's
I see where that's referenced, it just matches our current regulations. It's just updated to reference what our regulation says on videos.
That are part of the student's education record.
Yeah, because they're not supposed to get copies of that, they're able to come in and review it,
Right.
but unless it becomes a part of the student's record, then they do not get
Especially because
copies
there's
of it.
could be other students in there.
It has to be part of their record, right?
To view it, yes.
Yeah.
Of course, if it's handed over to law enforcement, that becomes a different
Right.
story.
Or it can be subpoenaed
Correct.
to get a copy, that would be.
Yeah. Usually if it's like that, it has to be by subpoena.
Is the increase from 5 to 7 years a state mandate?
Yes.
It changed last year.
Just complicates our lives.
Wow.
It made, it was not good. They already don't have room for stuff. I apologize, I didn't know she wasn't gonna be here, I would have read into this and had
It
something
doesn't have that
prepared.
many changes
There's really
that
not
are.
that much.
No.
Dr. Cornett, so that says like no copies of photographs, videos, or recordings. If they came in to view it,
They can be-
we're also making sure they're not like having their phone out and
Yeah, you're
also
not allowed
recording
to
the
do that.
recording.
Somebody has to sit in the room with you under FERPA
Our
and watch what
administrators-
you're doing, and they can only review it, that's it.
Okay,
You can't take pictures or do anything with anything.
got it. So long policy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that there's a ton of other. Just updates to language that we use.
Yeah.
Other than that, so. I'm good with that one.
Yeah, and the next policy is the one that's about videos. So she added audio or video recording by any means in classrooms at our on-school property while students and or school employees are engaged in providing educational opportunities to students. You can read all that, I'm not gonna read all that, but it's pretty much clarifying parents' rights related to audio and video recordings of meetings when they're with a school employee having a meeting, and what their rights are with that. And she did work with her legal counsel on that. So she didn't come up with that language herself.
You're talking about on G? AP?
Yeah.
Not you, but finish up on F.
I'm hung up on changes to legal name or sex in education records.
Change that policy.
We changed that last year, I think, based on the way the law had changed.
Yeah, because the people wanted us to call different names at graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah,
It
that's,
was not on a birth certificate,
It wasn't on a legal document.
documents, we said no.
yeah, that's not, you're only supposed to use what's on the birth certificate unless they bring in documentation that's legal that states that their name has changed. We're supposed to go by the birth certificate.
True, and that makes perfect sense. The current state law regarding gender changes, I mean, I'm trying to imagine when somebody's gonna change their sex on there, unless it was a typo and it needed to be changed, it should be in alignment with their birth certificate and their birth gender. Because if we're going to mandate that biologic males participate in biologic male sports, right, in male sports and vice versa, that they're not participating in women's sports, then why would we change the sex, even if they had a document that said now they are something else? Because that's not in alignment with what's coming down from governor's office right now, is it?
So as far as,
Name change, I understand.
right, so as far as like, I can speak to the athletic piece. We have a policy that basically says that it's the one that talks about the dignity, it's got the word dignity, respect of students. It states Bedford County Schools, students will participate in sports aligned with their biological given gender. So, that's outlined in another policy.
That overarches this.
Yeah, this
You're still thinking
policy
about
is-
bathrooms?
I mean,
Yeah, I'm just.
there's a cascading effect.
Right.
This policy is specific to their student records that's maintained at the school. It's about documents and in our systems like Power School and stuff like that. It's not with what you're talking about. It's specific to that.
That policy outlines everything that it follows their biological, given gender there.
Should be consistency though.
Yeah, I feel like we just did that one, but I hear what you're saying. Can you pull up JBB? Just to look at, because this starts out by saying, as stated in policy JBB.
I'm looking,
And that looks like that's the one that you're talking about, Dr. Cornett.
Privacy, dignity, and respect for all students and parents.
yes, sir.
Because if this is just a policy and this is not referencing actual state law, let's make sure that they make it's apples to apples.
Mm-hmm. I can just see that if we recognize it in one policy and then not in another, that back down one more, Melissa, please. The line where it said sex refers to biologic,
Down?
there's a line just above that.
It's at the very top, right, under definitions, all the way up.
Yeah, there.
Here.
Parents, guardian, leave it. Sex means biologic sex.
So H, Dr. Hubach says for athletic program or activities that's separated by sex, the appropriate participation of students shall be determined by sex rather than gender or gender identity. Bedford County shall provide reasonable modifications to this policy only to the extent required by law. So again, it, like you said up in the definition part, it
And same thing on number
Sex is
4,
biological.
students shall use bathrooms that respond to their sex. Then we provide single-use bathrooms and facilities.
and number 4 up there too, right above it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in keeping with our terminology, if we use the word sex to refer to their biologic gender, if they can change it, they can, we're certainly not talking about their biologic status, so maybe we need to change the word on this, policy that we're looking at. Does that make sense? OJO? Change the name or it would have to refer to their gender identity. If they're changing it, it has to be a gender identity.
What page are we on?
What if they change their
Second.
name because
last
of
name.
a marriage, like a stepdad into a stepdad's name or something?
Well, they can change their name. Yeah,
Birth certificate.
sure, there's
Well,
lots of
graduation
people that will
purposes.
legally change their name.
That would be graduation.
Yeah, I guess if they legally changed their birth certificate, then you go by the birth certificate.
Right.
Yeah. Legal document. Yeah, like you wouldn't get a state or federal issued identification or passport change unless you actually got your birth certificate and other documents that they require changed. So you'd have to have court order. I don't know when you'd have a court order to change the name or the sex, but
Well,
I've-
it's
I've
a
never-
legal name change.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons to do that.
the only ones I've ever seen, and I've been doing student records since 2010, is if they've been adopted and that's just their name. And the birth certificate typically is from adoption also. Or we had somebody get their birth certificate changed, I think it was their name. I don't remember anybody bringing one with their sex changed on it, but pretty much we just take birth certificates or a court order for adoption name change.
You can't change the sex on your birth certificate because that's assigned at birth based on
But they change,
biologic genitalia.
but they changed the birth certificate name and that's not what you were born. I mean, I'm not sure how it works.
So I can tell you that that's how it works. You can have a legal name change,
Right.
but your birth certificate remains unchanged.
They bring birth certificates in with different names on them. The kids do. When they're adopted or whatever,
I think
They
I
get it
understand what you're
changed.
saying. You're saying the name can change, but,
On the birth
but the
certificate.
birth certificate cannot go from,
Right,
One
because
sex to
it's
another
what happened
sex.
at birth.
So
It's
what
not
you're
what's
saying
happened
is
since
this-
then.
is not, it's not even possible, is what you're saying.
Correct.
yeah, I'm
And
not
we're-
referencing the sex change part. I'm
If somebody
referencing the
wants-
name. They do change the birth certificate. It has the birth date on it in a totally different name. And we replace that one with the old one. But yeah, you're not talking about that.
That's just a legal name change.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah, it's on the birth certificate though.
But you don't change, how much did you weigh at birth? How long were you? What's your head circumference? What's the name of your parents? Your birth certificate is a timestamp. And the name assigned to that born baby can change, right? But the baby itself doesn't change. So my point is that if we're going to allow someone to change the assignment of their gender, we ought to refer to it as that. Because if we say the word sex here, by our definitions, we've already said that that refers to their biological sex. And if they're making a change, then we're talking about a gender identity.
So you're saying where it says changes of legal name or sex would be required, it's gonna say changes of legal name or gender.
Identity, or gender.
And
Is
anywhere where
that
it says sex, it
saying
needs to
that
say
we'll-
gender.
Is
identity.
that suggesting, because when I read it that way, it suggests to me that we will change based on sexual identity, and that's not what we want it to say.
If they have a legal document that says that they have changed their gender identity, then
Okay.
Cause even if they, yeah, I guess if they change
They
that.
have to jump through
and
a
they
whole
wanna-
bunch of hoops
Whole bunch of hoops.
and say that,
I think, yeah, you
state
can
and
change your
government
driver's
recognize me.
license, you can change your
Yeah,
passport.
so if they change their gender identity and they go, I'm gonna use this bathroom, well, that's still not the sex that you were born with, so you can't.
that's right,
And
we
you have
already
to
have a
use the
policy that
single-use
overrides
bathroom
that.
and that, so that's where it's,
It's just being consistent with
Change
the
the
language
legal
again,
name.
that we've already
Gender
defined that sex means biologic,
Okay,
male or female.
I was just worried that it was giving them more of a,
I don't think it does. I think it gives us more security because if we keep our terminology consistent, then it doesn't say, well, you let me change it here, but you won't let me change it in the sports policy.
and I think the sports policy is correct, and that other JBB is correct, but it's referencing JBB, but it's not speaking the same thing, cause it's using, cause
not
we
saying the
changed
same
JBB to
language.
differentiate between sex
You-
and gender identity, and we haven't done it here. So I'm agreeing with you, and just we'll put it the way that it needs to be.
So since we defined sex prior, do we wanna change sex to gender identity?
We also defined gender identity, I believe, in JBB. I think so.
I think it did, and it clearly defined sex as your biologic.
That's what we did.
Yeah,
We made
if-
the
That was on the other
differentiation when
policy.
We did that one.
So, Dr. Hubach, what you're saying, and I'm not an expert at this, but you're saying it's not even possible to request the birth certificate to be changed from, like, let's say male to female or female to male. It's not even possible, right? That doesn't happen. So if that doesn't happen, then why is it even referenced there that it could change? Is that,
and what legal document are they gonna give us for us to change it?
I have no idea.
does that make sense?
You see what I'm saying? Cause
I
it,
thought it changed on the birth
If they've
certificate.
gone through
I could be
treatment
under
or
a
surgery,
I can be under a
that's right.
misconception.
Then you have a
I've not seen
documentation.
that.
I don't know.
That's
I don't
correct.
know either.
I know it can change
know
on
what
your
that
driver's
document would look like.
license and it can change on your passport, but we wouldn't accept that anyway, we'd go with the birth certificate.
Yeah, we don't have a definition in this policy. That was in JVB.
That's what we were saying.
I just don't want it to look like we would change gender identity. I wanna be careful with that.
And why, could that whole section even be stricken? And just only say that
Changes to
we're
legal
talking
name.
about legal name change?
Yeah,
Why-
it
why
shouldn't
do we
say,
even reference sex and
it shouldn't
gender
say
here?
or sex and education. Changes to legal name.
If we as a school board don't recognize that you can change your biologic identity, then why do we even reference it here?
I would have to go back to when we changed this policy, but like I did that policy, I did that language.
That
I
makes
didn't
even
change
more
that on
sense
my
to
own. It came from somewhere.
I-
I remember talking to the lawyer about it.
I'd almost,
Does that make sense to you?
If we're
Why- why does
changing
say
it-
That makes sense to me, like, why are we even getting into it? It should just say
yeah, and
changes
see,
in
that's
legal
why
name.
it's worrying
Just
me
only
to
have
make
that.
it, in my mind, we just made it less. I don't know why I'm
This-
seeing it that way,
this
but
says you can change the sex designation on the Virginia birth certificate by submitting a completed
If you've had a sex change. Yeah.
completed by a licensed healthcare provider, a copy of a court order for a name change if applicable, a valid ID, and required fees to the health office. Is what this is saying.
They might be able to change their certification, and that's maybe the legal documentation that we're talking about. But they can't change their DNA. I'm sorry.
no, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm
No,
just
we're
worried.
not.
But if this policy is strictly about name change,
In sex change, I guess it's saying if you had the official documentation, whatever that is, change a birth certificate or something else, that we would change you
that
to
would be the
Sally
only
and call
reason
you
we
a
would
female.
change.
Yeah. If you provide any of these legal documents listed, then we're required to do that. And I have emails where I talk to the lawyer about this stuff
Do we need to send it back to the lawyer?
before.
That was what I was.
I would, my question would be is
There's no
putting
confusion
gender identity in there instead of sex, making it less limiting or more open?
Glad you caught that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just making sure we're putting the right word in
I
there.
understand to keep it consistent.
I understand to
do.
keep it consistent, I understand what you want, but I'm just worried that,
I
because
think
identity's kind of like how you feel rather than what you are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I don't want them to think what you feel will change.
Because then when you feel something different, you're gonna go back to the same thing.
Yeah, I wanna make
So
sure it's as restrictive as possible.
I agree with you, and I think that we think that policy JBB is on point, and I think that that's good. I am now reasonably confused enough to say, hey,
I am
I
too.
think
why
we all
don't we
are.
go in,
Send it
summarize what we've been talking about, go back to the attorney with it. This is not like it's urgent, it's more important as always that we get it right. And I think we do that, I think we bring up Dr. Hubach's concerns, I think he's right, but let's bring that up, let's bring it back to the lawyer and let's bring
Yeah.
it back for
And for
discussion.
consistency, if he's okay with it still having to be what's on the birth certificate, then I think consistency's best. But if
So,
it,
is this JBB?
That's the cross-reference, I believe.
So you're talking JO and JBB?
He's just talking about.
No, JBB
You're
is
saying
fine.
JBB is a
what
good
they want it
document.
to say.
Yes.
JBB's good.
And that's
It's
not,
written.
that's
JO.
not what's up for review today, except
No.
JO
reference.
In that section, it is, yes, it is referenced as stated in policy JBB.
I think I understand what you want. It's just,
we like JBB and we want JO to be consistent
Be
with it.
consistent with
Right.
JBB.
With those definitions.
And is it best to either eliminate sex from the equation in JO or to change it to gender? Because right now we don't feel like using the word sex is consistent with JBB.
Agree.
well, and
And it's disturbing to
Maybe
even have to
it's-
have a conversation.
it is disturbing, but maybe it's the fact that we would use gender, not gender identity.
I think so. I agree, that we would use gender, not gender identity there.
Yeah, cause the identity part's what's really,
Cause we're talking about a legal,
yes,
Saying,
I don't
please-
want it to be like, oh, I want this because that's how I'm feeling today.
That's why I questioned, go back to the definition. Are we defining gender or are we defining gender, identity?
Gender's not defined in.
Yeah, that's not in this policy.
Know what I'm saying though?
JBB.
Right.
It's only sex.
We can
is
add more
defined.
definitions.
the reason we haven't defined gender is because in today's legal world, it's a fluid statement, it's a fluid term that we're saying, bring us the legal documentation that you have an official change of gender, and then we'll recognize it.
Right. Cause we probably won't get any of those.
Otherwise, it's on your birth certificate, and that's what we go by. And that's what we go by for graduation, that's what we go by for everything else.
And we can add the definitions from JBB to this one. It has a definition section. I mean, if you want to do that.
As long as they're consistent.
Yeah, let's go back to the attorney.
Let's take it back to the
I
attorney
agree.
for consistency.
Good enough, we're gonna leave that.
So it's-
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get into a definition of something that quite honestly, it's like nailing jello to the wall.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think that both of these have to be the same. So you're gonna hold out.
We're gonna hold off, we're gonna go attorney review on that, we'll
You're
bring
gonna,
it back.
you're gonna hold JO out and refer both of them to the attorney? Or
Just
consistency?
JO.
Well, JBB and JO comparison, so that there's
Yeah,
consistency
we'll send that to
between,
them to look at, correct?
between the two, consistency between JBB and
Mhm.
JO.
Okay. Very good. That was
Just
very good.
confused ourselves enough to where.
Nope. All the other ones were pretty straightforward. KP, parental rights and responsibilities. Ms. Sexton, you were going over what was added, and that was with the recording by parents, correct?
Yeah, it's telling them when they can record and they have to have permission before they record. They have to tell people And if the people in the meeting don't wanna be recorded, then they can cancel the meeting.
If they are recorded, then we record, and then it has
And
to go into the educational record.
Yeah, if it is recorded, it becomes part of the child's record.
And they can't just go into a school in a classroom and record without notice.
So basically, if the parents record it, then we also have to record it to make it part of the record. Because we don't use their recording as a record, we have to duplicate it.
Yeah.
Which is wise.
Parents shall inform the local educational agency before the meeting in writing, unless the parents cannot write in English, that they will be audio recording the meeting. How did they know there was a meeting?
But you have to have notification.
So we would send that in Spanish or another language? Well, then we should say, then notify us in writing that you're gonna be recording it, send it back in Spanish. We can,
I don't know why the attorney put that in there, but this is,
Yeah, the attorney gave care of the language for this.
I get your point.
See what I'm
Because
saying?
we would notify them of the meeting
it's
in their
like they have
native
the, they have the
language.
ability to write, you know. I don't know.
Maybe this is assuming that whoever they're communicating with doesn't speak the foreign language.
If the parent does not inform the local educational agency, then the parent shall provide the local educational agency with a copy of the audio recording. Which again, to let them know that, you have to then tell them that in their own native language. See, I don't know, seems like this one, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me,
It's a little convoluted.
right?
Yeah, because they would have to be writing you, giving you written notice in Spanish or.
And in those situations, we have a translator in the room.
Sometimes, sometimes not. Depends on the language.
Or, we have a language service.
Through the computer.
Pretty soon you get those new AirPods, you're not gonna need it at all.
Because we have a lot of different languages, especially in forest.
That would be interesting. And of course, we'll make an accommodation if there's a disability. And I guess that would come to you, yeah, you guys would know.
What kind of audio recording equipment do we use when we know that this is gonna happen? Is it just hit the record on your phone and transfer a digital file to?
We record if you record.
Of course,
Or-
that way they can't put something, someone can't
They can't
Can,
doctor the
right,
record.
I think it
or,
depends on what kind of meeting. If it's like a 504 IEP meeting, I'm sure our staff
have
have
little recorders.
recording documents. Student
My
might be able
meetings,
to-
we just usually use our
But
cell
if it's an
phones.
administrative meeting that it comes up quickly,
Yeah.
we would use our cell phones or computers.
What about when it's like a virtual meeting? Cause you could do an IEP meeting over Google
You
Meet. Or Zoom, I guess.
You could, usually if you can tell if they're recording on that, but, I had a virtual meeting the other day. Of course, it wasn't IEP, but I said at the beginning of the meeting, I do not give anyone permission to record this meeting. So, and they said, we agree. So, we went on. So at least you've stated that you're not giving your permission to be recorded.
Isn't audio recording in Virginia, isn't it a one-party state? So
But
if
it
you
helps
flat
if-
out
if I
say,
helps-
if you say, nope, that ends that,
Supposedly, that's what I've been told to say, so I said it in this circumstance. But
So then
in this
if-
circumstance, they very much agreed, they didn't want me to have the recording either.
But then if they did record, it would just be inadmissible.
Cause I didn't give my permission.
in court, not court of public opinion though.
No. Two very different things.
I don't know, and it was employee, so
Well, again,
it's not IP.
I
IP
think
has
that's why
different
we're
rules.
putting it up front that,
yeah, I get it, and I think 90-something, you know, there's such a high percentage where it's not an issue, but it's important to have it some case that there is, but, okay.
Well, and it's good to know just at the beginning, you can't just walk into a school and record stuff. You know,
Yeah, especially because there's other minors that are there, I mean, even when it's something fun, like
and
you're
a lot
going
of,
to a
right,
school
and
event
a lot of people have
and it's
not given
outside.
their permission for you to record them or take a picture of them and put it on Facebook.
Exactly
And,
right.
you know, the parent has not given permission for that, so another parent shouldn't be.
Well, also, there could be other kids that are in foster care or something
All
else like
kinds of
that,
stuff, right.
and that is violation, big violation, so.
But people aren't gonna walk up to the administrative office and say, hey, is it okay if I record something at lunch? I'm with, you know, if they're in the cafeteria with their kids, they probably don't.
We have it on the volunteer form. Not to
Yeah,
record.
but if somebody comes to have lunch with their kid, right, there are gonna be circumstances where parents are on campus and cell phones are everywhere and it's so easy to record,
I know,
you know?
it's kind of
They
scary.
shouldn't,
They shouldn't, that's
just
scary.
because of the kids in the background. But it happens, I'm sure.
Yes. I'm just saying, we have a policy, but it doesn't necessarily disseminate that information to the public.
Well, that's like every policy. You're assuming everybody's read them.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that's why our principals have to be
Yeah,
vigilant to, and with their staff and communicate
Why
with
we
their staff.
review them and they are part of the public and
Yeah.
it's available for anybody to see, but
it's hard to make everybody
Uh,
follow
public
everything
events-
that's written.
Public events like sporting events, like that's
Yeah.
pretty much fair game.
Fair game at a sporting event.
Well, even the little plays and stuff inside the
Right.
school, my
Those are
kid would
public
be up
events.
online even though I didn't put it there. Because
Right, it's
somebody
fair
else.
game. When you enter that stage, you're fair game.
I think during the instructional days different
Yeah.
than after school
Yeah.
activities and those kind of things.
I did 2 grandparent lunches last week and
Yes.
nobody was recording anywhere.
Good, I think it's a little ambiguous
yeah,
with all that other stuff, but I
I
also
do
don't
think
think
Maybe
it's.
it's because it was grandparents.
it's also in special circumstances, but usually it has to do with an IP, so.
I mean, we can add where the parent has to bring something in their own language or whatever you said.
Uh,
if you want.
Again, there you gotta translate this policy into however many languages there are and put them all out there, so. It just seemed odd, that's all, but I'm sure we would be the ones that are trying to do whatever we can to make the accommodation, cause at the end of the day, we're trying to help the student, and we want that information to get to the right place where it needs to get to, so. Whether they read the policy or not, or know about it, so I think we're okay to move G. That one is good. All right, 5 says other topics for discussion. Dr. Hubath, you can take it away. I think we both wanted to bring up the same thing.
Yeah, Dr. Josh and I talked about this at the last school board meeting after Nate Gillum brought up the topic of private parent transportation of students to specifically track meets. And Josh, if you would just kind of outline I guess Even though we don't have a policy
Right.
by name, but
I'll just kind of,
what the
if it's
guidelines
okay, I
are.
can kind of start with our conversation a couple weeks ago and kind of outline where this originated from, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
And
So-
what the dilemma is.
So we have a athletics team that's comprised of all the athletic directors, all the athletic trainers and principals, and myself. Mr. Lee, who is supervisor of transportation, and Mr. Nazigan, who Safe Schools coordinator. And we meet monthly to discuss issues, but every November we come together on budgetary requests and needs. And I know like the past 2 or 3 years, since Forest JF got a lacrosse team, the board petitioned us or requested that I go back to our athletic team and see what the other schools would want, because we tried to do clinics for lacrosse at both Liberty and Stanton River, and there was not enough interest. So the board at that time, and this might have been 4 or 5 years ago, I'm dating myself, requested that we go back to the schools and see what sports, what would benefit Liberty and Stanton River zones. Well, all 3 zones said we really need cross-country at the middle school level, and we need track at the middle school level, and also competition cheer. So we began requesting that for a couple years. It never made it through the budgetary process until last year in August, during the August meeting last year. This board worked with Mr. Hagler and Mr. Dupere and the exec team to say, we think we have enough money to implement 3 new middle school sports. So at that time, what was presented prior to that, when we requested the board make that, was 5 competitions for cross-country and 5 competitions for both boys and girls track to begin the programs, and 3 competitions for competition cheer at the middle school level. That was approved, and that's what we started with last year.
So
Back
that
to-
all zones
All 3 zones.
would have those no matter what. That's what we were gonna budget for,
And that's what we did
and
budget
so we
for.
budgeted for that. So
So
that
we-
is what Bedford County Public Schools is committing to these programs.
Yes, sir.
Got
So we went through the first year, and I think 2 programs got up and running some. Don't quote me to the T, but I think we all got the programs running, and now they're all three going. Back in November, we always meet as a team to say, okay, what are our needs? What do we want to petition the school board as a need from the athletic department? And from that, and after it's approved by you guys, we have a budget standards document that outlines so many things. It's an internal control document to make sure we're fair for all 3 zones and all 3 levels, both middle school, JV, and varsity. So at that November meeting last year, it was not brought up to request any more, because they were still getting some of the schools were still getting going with cross country and track. So at that time, we kept with 5. That's what is written in this document for 5, and that's what our ADs plan the season off of to schedule. Not just for cross country, but for everything, for every sport. That's what they start working on to schedule our seasons with, if that makes sense. So that's why our cross country team at the middle school level is running 5 races, because it's part of that budgetary document, and it's part of what was allotted from the get-go. It's not a money thing, other than the fact that it is a part of our budget standards and allotment at this issue. Now, it's been clear that I think at least 2 schools would like to see some more, and I talked prior to this request, I talked to another athletic director, and them and their coach are prepared to come to their November meeting that's already scheduled to request 1 or 2 more meets for the next year. And I think now that we're up and going, I think that's a reasonable request that we'll definitely
definitely consider and see what the whole division looks at. So
from a budget from a budget perspective and as a need from the whole division. So like our committee has to look, when I say our committee, our team of all those people have to look at it from a division lens and not just a program lens or a school lens.
Okay, so if they are willing to, they wanna go to other stuff now, and they are willing to pay for it themselves, what do we care?
I think that becomes an issue with fairness across all three.
They did have fair, it is fair, it's fair because we provided the same opportunity for all different zones.
I think what I'm trying to say is, when we put this document out, our ADs at the other two schools have scheduled based on this document. And I'm not talking about just this sport, I mean, it's talking about all sports.
No, I understand, but they scheduled that based on what our budget was.
Right.
They couldn't say, well, we wanna do 6, well, we can't do 6 because we don't have the money for 6 for all of them, right?
Well, I think the other piece to think about is the way our structure is, and I think this is not just a Bedford County thing, it's a high school, middle school thing. The varsity and JV have standards set by the VHSL, which has a capped amount of games, right? Our middle school is always based on a percentage of those games. Our middle school teams do not play the full schedule, which I believe is the way it should be, because that's a developmental thing, and it's also a varsity rank thing, right?
So if they played, if they said, if we were okay with them going because it's up to them to go, would they be violating VHSL rules?
Well, middle school is not under VHSL
You said it's a
guidelines,
percentage underneath.
except for Bedford County says our middle school sports will follow VHSL guidelines. Now, what I'm saying is our budget document, if you look at, let's say football varsity has 10 regular season games, our middle school has 7. So it's typically about between the majority or 60 and 70% of the games that are allotted at the high school level for middle school sports. So I think the issue is like from our perspective, we're looking through the division lens, not at one program, not at one school, not at one tier, but the whole division. And if we start midstream changing the number of games, one team may have already got the whole schedule and lost competitions already because they chose not to do those in the past, because they're operating under this document. It's not a matter of the other piece I think we have to consider is when we say if we let them go and it doesn't cost us, well, then that means the parents are transported. And while I'm sure a lot of parents are able and willing to transport, some parents may not be able to transport. So I feel like, and I think our team feels like, that if it's a Bedford County sponsored activity, we should be providing transportation for that activity. Now, I say that, and there are some instances, because it's a middle school sport, that sometimes we do have to ask our parents to enable, in order for us to continue those games and those competitions, that we have to ask our parents to transport them only when there's a bus driver shortage, because varsity gets first dibs on transportation, and then when there's so many events on one day, there have been times where we had to ask parents, but we have a internal document that standardizes when that can happen, and it starts with, okay, is it a bus driver shortage? Does the coach still want to attend, and can all the parents provide transportation for every child, so every child's not missing out on that opportunity? But we certainly do not like to do that, because it does put more pressure on some parents that just can't.
I'm sure that there's parents that can't do it, but I'm sure that the kids on the team have friends and their parents can do it and they have no problem with carpooling. So
I don't know that.
I do think that, I think we gotta try to find ways to say yes a lot of times, and ways to say like, this is what happens. Because if the JF's team is playing a sport and say the Liberty and Stanton River are all playing that same sport, and they go, well, we're gonna play for X amount of games, that's true. And Stanton River makes the playoffs and they go all the way to the state championship and the other teams don't, well, that's not really fair, because we then would provide busing and everything else for that,
So
right?
it outlines playoffs do not include, this is just based,
But it's still games though.
so middle school, cross-country actually does have a state meet. And we've already said that that is fair game to go to. So that would be a sixth,
I just know that we spend, they're trying to find ways to go and participate in actual outdoor activities and to be better. And, maybe they develop a really good program and people want to go there and they go, hey, I'm going to zone transfer to go over to Liberty from JF because they'll do more meets and they'll do stuff. You're getting more kids in that school. I know you might have another policy that says they can't do that, but
It's like you only have one
So-
AD and everybody wants more games.
so just because someone else said, well, I didn't know we could do that, well, you also didn't ask. So now that it's been asked, and now if it does become something you could do, then you'll probably get more requests for them to do it.
well, I think,
I think the
But that's
bottom,
part of
I
the
think the
problem.
bottom line is there is protocol.
I understand that there's
And-
protocol, but we have kids, we've had so many
I get it.
meetings where we're like, the kids are on the phones too much, they're not getting outside, they're not doing this, and then they want to do it, and we're
So
like, sorry.
here's my only beef, is if an individual sport asks for more games, that opens the door for other sports to ask for more games. And so what's to stop a football team from saying, like, we want 8 games instead of 7? Or cheerleading to say we want 5.
VHSL is there to stop that because they put a cap on
Not
it.
at middle
No,
school.
not in middle school.
No.
All the middle school
But-
kids.
I'm
But
not
if
saying
we
middle
still
school.
provided.
That's what
the
we're
same-
talking
You
about.
can,
We're
that,
talking
you
about
wanna
middle
do it, as long as it's not
right.
violating
We're not-
VHSL or anything else.
We're not talking about
We're only
elevating.
paying for this, cause this is all we can do.
But you gotta set up the activity, you gotta have the AD, you gotta have the people there, you've gotta have, there's a lot of work that
But if
goes
they-
into all
I
those things.
understand that, but if an AD is doing it and they're doing really well and they're providing lots of opportunities for their people, aren't they also looking at possibly being recruited by other high schools and other colleges and everything else? I'm sorry, they are. It looks good for them if they
I-
have a good program.
I know that, but that's like a high school level, but in the middle school, you could add, and why not just go through it the right way? Why not just have the person request and say, next year we need to have more, and then
There's-
everybody next year gets more?
I'm sure they
There's
can
nobody
do
at
it.
this
proper
table
channels,
doesn't
so-
want them to have 6 or 7 events. It's just that the way that it's being asked is that it's superseding what exists, and when you do it for one, you gotta start doing it for all.
And you open up Wild Wild
And you're
West.
gonna open up.
and there's
Wild
other,
I think find a way.
I don't know that it opens up the wild, wild west. And we're not talking about elevating the number of competitions in middle school over what the high school cross-country
No.
team is doing, right? We're saying that there's 8 meets on the schedule that are available, but you only get to go to 5. And they're like, we'd really like to do all 8, and we're willing to transport the kids if that's okay. Why isn't it okay? Other than it's not the way
I don't
we
even
usually
like
do
them
this.
transporting the kids,
I'm
but
But we
gonna,
I don't
will
like
do
it
it.
I
at
don't wanna
all.
say this, but it sounds like an excuse, but that is a big
I
concern
don't-
of mine. Parents,
What's that? The
Yes.
I don't
liability
like
of
them.
parents transporting
Yes.
kids.
No, I don't like it.
I'd rather put them on a bus every single time.
Do you have-
I think my other main concern is, it has nothing to do with this individual sport or individual school or anything like that. It's just if we deviate from our document that we've been operating off of all year. Now, and when another team asks that, then it's putting our ADs and our principals and us as a athletics team in a pickle to say, the perception's gonna be, well, then there's favorites, or, because a lot of times it is not gonna be budget neutral. In this one instance, it could be budget neutral because the parents, you're saying the parents would transport, and there's already no fees because there's already an 8 circuit.
And it's already
But
away
most-
and it's
but
already
most-
somewhere else.
But most sports are not, they're gonna be budget, they're not gonna be
They're not
budget
gonna be
neutral.
I think I agree with you if it's not budget neutral. They would have to, we only have X amount of dollars. If any of those people and parents are providing extra dollars for that, that's out of our thing. I mean, parents provide extra money to do things all the time at everything. They donated this to Liberty.
There's
they
another
donated this.
can of worms here too, and this is why it really should go through the finance committee, just like it should come through their committee to the finance committee for this reason, and this is one that's not been considered. If I am contracted to coach 5 events and I'm paid $1,000, I now do 8 and I want more than $1,000 because I just took my season for 6 weeks and stretched it to 8 weeks, and now I need more money because it's taking me away from my job or whatever. So when you do this, you do wanna do it right, because the finance committee needs to say, we can extend this season by 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but we also need to consider extending salaries or in this supplements.
And
So there's
you're right.
a lot
I
of
hear
different
ya.
components.
I hear you, and we
Lot of
would,
different-
and we
so
would
just-
look at that if we went from 5 to 8 as a division. We would have to do that.
Mhm.
But
That's why I'm saying
if
go the route.
If the team wants to do it and then they wanna do it, they have to understand that
It's
you
not-
make one decision, there's another decision. You wanna do it for the benefit of your kids and to become a better coach, that's fine. We can't pay you the extra because it was not budgeted.
Nobody's against more games.
Yeah.
To a limit. I mean, there's a
Following the right procedure.
follow the procedure. Go through the process, get 8 games, 7 games, 6 games, whatever. Next year, make sure that you can extend that contract, extend that payment. I agree with Dr. Kelber here. It is a bad practice to start, and I know we do it in emergencies, but it is a bad practice to start having parents move kids, because if you have an accident, you got a problem. And
Or
I've seen that
I
happen.
may be someone
I've
that's
seen that happen as an
working
athletic director.
and I can't take my kid, but I've gotta trust somebody, or maybe that I don't really trust, put my kid in the car with them.
It's a big issue.
And I,
There's a lot of issues, and a lot of people that don't have money have hard times getting,
And then it's discriminatory.
Yep.
it is,
I
it's
think I'm more
not, it's not
concerned,
good,
can only
and
take-
I
we
was
can
from
only
take
JF.
12 kids
if
and-
we say a
15
team
on
can
the team.
afford it, or parents are willing to afford it, that makes me very concerned that it could become an issue where it's like the haves versus the have-nots. Where some schools couldn't afford more games. That's why we have a
No,
standards
but you
document.
know,
I understand what you're saying.
it's also, quite honestly, if there would have been a big uproar, if this was another school that was doing extra games, and then you'd have 2 other schools saying, I can't believe they get to do extra games.
I think we would have given them the same answer.
I know that they would have, but if it would have been there, it would have been an uproar if a different coach spoke. And the rest of the community would be like, I cannot believe that someone's gonna do,
Do you,
but because it's there, it's like, they were trying to fundraise it themselves to do it. I mean,
So,
this was budget neutral, I guess, but they were willing to at least go
so
there.
a lot of schools have clubs, community clubs, when I say schools. There's a lot of communities that have clubs in the community that run also simultaneously, like swim is one, wrestling is one, cross-country is one in the Forest Zone. So there's ways to get more opportunities for kids if the community wants
And you gotta
that.
pay for those. But don't we have a policy that allows someone to rent our school buses?
Yes, sir.
So why couldn't they rent our school bus?
to be available first, probably.
It's probably available,
You have to have a driver.
and you'd have a
I mean,
driver.
there's fees for that.
But they
and
could,
the
if they could
organization-
afford that and
So
do it,
let's-
they could
let's-
do it. Now
let's-
it's a bus driver,
Let's talk
correct?
about the compromise that would allow us to say, yes, but here are the stipulations. You have to use public school transportation, and this is what it would cost to do that extra thing. And then if they're like, well, we don't have enough time to raise the budget for that, well, there's our
We
answer.
gave an option. We
We
do
gave
have
an
the bus
option.
situation. We have our buses. We made that policy.
So are you?
And what would that look like? I mean, we're just talking.
Yeah, I'm just trying to play
Well,
devil's advocate to find.
In our budget standards, so, and I know I keep coming back to this, but this helps us stay
Keep things
consistent.
fair.
And when you're dealing with 3 different high schools and 3 different middle schools, it's imperative.
There's a lot of
that
games,
we
you guys,
stay
already.
consistent.
There's a
So,
lot.
Can I add, I didn't say this last Thursday for the reason of this. This came up after, about a month ago, I started writing chain of command. And the chain of command in this, like any other policy here, is what you just did. So you sat here today and looked at policies. A chain of command broken is someone coming in and talking to the school board about a policy they don't like, and you changing it before it goes through the process of this committee and to the board for approval.
Well, there's,
And so
and then here
I
there's
wasn't
no
talking
policy,
about.
so we're just
I-
bringing it up
Well,
to this chat.
there's a budget policy. So at this point, it had nothing to do with cross-country. It had everything to do, and it happened on Friday. I cannot go to any school or any function, and this happened to me multiple times last year where I did SWATs. And when the meeting's all over and I'm trying to make it out the door, Mr. Dupere, may I have a word with you? I need to talk to you about something that needs to change. This happens constantly to me. It happened on Friday. And so I think I went to 8 professional developments on Friday, and I got stopped twice. So people want me to circumvent something, and they don't want to go to their principal. They're teachers. They don't want to go to their principal. If they don't like my answer there, guess who they're going to? They're writing you an email. And this is what I've been talking about. This is what I've observed for a year. Nobody sitting here is opposed to increasing games. What we're stating is that when you make changes, go through the protocol. And this is no different when it speaks about chain of command, because you get emails, and thank goodness you guys are good. You send them right back, and I send them to where they belong. And it goes back to the principal. That happened today, I do believe. Right, Josh? Got one today. And went right back to the principal. So there is a process for everything we do. You're looking at a guy that spent 16 years as an athletic director. I would have done everything possible to get my kids as many meets or as many games as possible. I mean, I call all over the state, and you know what? I'd pay for the bus to go 3 hours away to get that game. But that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about chain of command. We are talking about going through the right way so that the next time this occurs, it doesn't happen in track, because it's going to happen in track season. Somebody's going to come up here and stand here and say, hey, listen, can we have 6 meets in track? It's going to happen. And track teams are traditionally bigger than cross-country. And how do you move them? So the proper protocol here is to go through his committee, to go through finance, to say we are going to stretch those salaries or stipends, and we are going to allot, instead of 5 games, we're going to bus you to 6 of them. And or provide transportation for 6 of them. That's the proper way. That is what I've been talking about. It just so happens it showed up on Thursday night. And it's another case of where people do not go through the chain of command because they don't like the answer they just got. That's what I've experienced for a year. And I experienced it on Friday and I experienced it this morning. It happens every day of my life. Not opposed to it. I'd fight for them in that committee. Trust me, I would. Let's do it right.
So do we need to respond to Coach Gillum? Right now, he's like, we got 5 meets. I know he presented a deadline that said, hey, if I don't know something by such a date, our season's over, which is okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying.
I'm just saying that he needs to get an answer that comes from the AD probably.
So Mr. McDougal and I have been in contact. He is already, I think, advised to spread out the season, to get them to the state meet, and I can certainly, I've already told Mr. McDougal I'll follow up with him after this meeting. if that's the direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conundrum, right? Because what we want and how we get there.
We're a committee. We just brought it up because it was brought up. We don't get to tell you what that is.
It's valid, it's so valid
Yeah.
too.
I always want to try to find ways to say yes and, oh, we'll wait till next year. Like, that's tough. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't really know. I'd like to think that when you got the right people in the right places, those people, as long as it's following the right chain of command, can call an audible when they don't like the looks of the play on the field. I always think that that's possible. That's why you put the right people to make the right decisions. That's what I do. You know, I can't tell you guys what to do, but you know, what we say is, hey, you know, you're in the positions to make the decisions.
After talking to the ADs, all three ADs, and them talking to the other one's coaches, I think we're all on the same page of following the protocols for November. Talking to the other schools.
And I appreciate you guys trying to bring in and say, well, you look at this, it's not just an A-B thing. There's all these other things that come to place. I appreciate you trying to do that. I still am trying to wrap my head around it. I know exactly what you're saying with chain of command. You don't like an answer, you can come here. It's happened before where people have done that, and it's supposed to, you know, a personnel issue they're not supposed to talk about, they try.
And I'm not opposed to their request. But when that request goes through, we should consider more than just the transportation of kids. We should consider that this person's gonna work an extra month. It's more money out of our pocket, but those are the things that need to be considered. You need to look at every aspect and make sure that it's fairly given to
Because
everyone.
it may have to be paid closer to a JV stipend because they
Well,
probably have the same
and-
games as
And
JV.
again, I think that if the coach, again, they can
Basically, he's
sign
willing to
something
donate his
too,
time.
if they're willing to donate their time. If we say, hey, you know what, you guys wanna do this, we're uncomfortable with this part, but here's what we have. And you guys wanna fundraise to do it, to use one of our buses, was a bus driver available? There, I think there's other things that you can add to that document, that's not making it necessarily harder, but it's like, you wanna be able to provide more opportunity. There are some hoops that you gotta jump through, but they're necessary hoops.
I think, I just want to, echo what he says. I think we all want kids, like, we all wanted the addition of these middle school sports and really, petition you guys and ask you guys
tried.
for several years. So
We did.
we're excited that we have the sports.
That's
And
right.
we want them to continue to grow and we want them to continue to build. It's about just ensuring that we're being fair across the board and looking at it through a division lens and not a program
Well,
lens.
I can appreciate, because when someone stands up there and they get to talk and they're very passionate for 4 minutes and we're hearing that side and we're like, well, this makes sense. Tell me how this doesn't make sense. There's no real way to have a back and forth to say,
No.
we have to understand all this too. That's why it's important, A, that we brought it up here, B, that it's now out there and now they go, well, here's at least the reasons why. It's not that we don't want this to happen, we do.
Absolutely.
No, we do.
We do have decisions, and again, it's not this committee, there's other committees that, there's X amount of dollars that come in, we wish that was not an issue, because we could do a whole lot more if we had a lot more money. But we have to do the best that we can in that, and again, you just bring up a good point. You'd like it to be 6 or 8 or whatever, and then we have a lot of other, I'm sure, sports that would love to do other things as well. We'd love to do it. That other finance committee, we're gonna have to try to find that, and it's gotta come from somewhere. We all believe in that, and think it's good, but
And
Yeah,
based
just-
on my conversations with all of our ADs, even the high school ADs, I think it's very, I think it will happen that they'll bring it up in November that they want to add, and I think that will definitely go through start through the financial process, going to the exec team to see, how we can get that a part of y'all's budget next year to add. Now, that's where the expertise of our team comes in. What is the sweet spot of competitions? Looking at the whole athletic program compared to the percentages of other middle school teams and other sports. That's why we look at it as a committee level and hear all those voices and all those stakeholders in there. And we hear the coach and we hear the parents that they want more. I think that's a really good
And
potential.
you said that they all three are gonna go to state?
If they qualify,
Okay,
whatever
they
students
qualify,
qualify, we'll,
And we'll make sure that they can get there.
and we'll
In
provide
the
transportation.
meantime, if there's a gap, right, and they're all taking the gap or whatever, I mean, I know it's transportation still, but could they all compete against each other? Do their own mini meets?
If they think they're going to states, they could all
It's kinda
still
like a club
practice.
competition.
They can practice at different venues
So they
within the
can
within
practice
the
and they
county.
can do the events and stuff to keep themselves sharp, and it's gonna be good competition.
My understanding, talking to all three ADs, I think there's still potential to lengthen out the season.
Mhm.
So there's not like just a September whatever date and then an October, end
And
of
like in
October.
between,
I
like
think we can.
when I had
we can
baseball
lengthen.
season, if you didn't have games for a couple, you were still practicing every day. So
Absolutely.
they're still engaged, like, well, we'll see you in
Absolutely.
3 weeks. And they're not going
No,
home.
it's still
No, they're-
Right.
practice however much the coaches want to practice.
Okay. But I think that would be good to get other,
And I think they can practice in different venues,
yeah.
based on the needs.
Well, and also, I think there's another aspect too,
Bedford
though,
County.
too, if they're traveling somewhere, you know, we have trainers too now, right? And so we need to make sure that we're keeping the athletes safe too.
Trainers don't travel.
Trainers who don't travel, so they
Well-
would be the trainer from the other, wherever they're going,
Right,
someone
the
from
host,
like,
the host school.
That's also a consideration with all this, because we already have too few.
No, we have,
They're sure
portable ADs that we make, our trainers do a great job.
Usually the site
And
has
we
a
are so
trainer.
blessed
Yeah.
in Bedford
that's what I was gonna ask.
with you guys adding, and a part of that last year with the middle school sports was adding an additional trainer
Yep.
at each zone. So now we finally, my understanding, our last, school just got their trainer, starting
Part-time.
very soon. So all three schools or all six schools have a trainer. So that's a huge thing for Bedford County. A lot of schools don't have that.
And they don't necessarily are assigned to every sport. It's, you start with your most physical.
And I want the coach to hear, it's like, we support our kids wanting to run, and we're thankful for coaches who are passionate on their sports. We have a process, and we need to follow the process, and we'll make sure we get that request processed.
Well, I think it's important to put all this in perspective too, that 2 years ago, they didn't have a program at all. There was no running, no track meets, no additional
Right,
trainers.
we've come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they've got 5 meets, and we're looking at potentially expanding that for next year's season. But they've got what they've got, and it's a good thing. And we should go with that.
All right.
This is not us saying no, this is us saying yes, but this is the way it
And
gets
we're
done.
all trying to pull in the right direction, so that's good. That's why we have the discussion, that's why I'm glad we put it on the list there. Okay, number 6, next committee meeting dates. October 27th, 3 to 4:30, I can do that. So I think we're good for that, correct?
I did put the other ones down here where Karen put it on the calendar. The November 24th one, we can do that. It just leaves 2 days before I have to turn stuff into Diana, which I can make it happen if we're gonna have a date then. December, we typically don't have a meeting because of all the holidays and stuff.
Mhm.
And the meeting that we scheduled is during the break, so I don't think we're gonna do that one.
I agree on the December. I can do the November if we need to have the November, unless anybody's
I'm okay with the October 27th. That's good.
He's not getting
Yeah,
too far ahead of
I
himself.
actually don't know if I'm gonna travel for
We'll meet back on that
Thanksgiving.
next time.
I will, but I'll be here on the 24th.
Okay.
I'll travel
Why
out.
don't we hold with the October one and maybe we'll discuss the November one. We can say we're not gonna do a December one.
Okay.
Not here for January. If I can do that one on. We need to.
I'm okay with January for sure.
Okay. This is almost like when you like go to the doctor, like, all right, we'll see you in a year.
No, I don't know.
Are you good? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow, let alone this exact day, 365 days from now.
We can just check on them each time. I can just put the next date in it. and then
Yeah,
we
we're
can
gonna do
decide.
that. We'll think about November. We'll let you know. Definitely no December. And January, I think we're good. How about that? Is that fair?
That's
All right,
good.
we got 2 of 4.
As long as we have the next one, we're fine.
Yeah, I think we're good. All right. Good to go? You ready to adjourn?
Ready to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Good meeting. Got some stuff done.